All right, so thank you for tuning in to Chomping at the Bit. I'm Kyle Evers, of course. And before I get started, I will just like to say Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, your loved ones, all that. Hopefully you enjoy the day together, have good food, and even if you are alone on Thanksgiving, hey, you know, you got me joining you. All right. So happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And with Thanksgiving comes the annual tradition of the used to be just 2 games on Thanksgiving, but now they've added the 3rd game. So as I do each week before the Thursday night game, I look back at the week before to let you know what happened, go through all the games, give you a quick little recap on each matchup, take a look at how my picks did, and then end of the episode, take a look at the Thursday games, preview those, give you the picks for those games. That way, that would lead off the current week before I do the rest of the games later on the weekend. So, looking at the past week, you guys know, and if you don't and you're new here, appreciate you, but I make picks based off of the spread. So, real quickly, spread, they put a point line on each game, and they'll put a minus for the favorite plus underdog. So in order for the underdog to cover, they have to either win the game outright or they can't lose by more than whatever that point line is set at. And then for the favorite to win, they have to win by at least that number. If the game ends and it hits exactly on the point line, then it's just a draw, so it counts as a tie. So currently, I'm 73, 74, and 2. So a game under 500. By the end of the year, I want to be around 60%, around 600. So I have some work to do in these next coming weeks to try to get closer to that number. But for like the bare minimum, I don't want to finish below 500. So that is kind of the secondary goal there. Have been keeping track of how well I do when I pick underdogs, and I've had a really good year when I do pick the underdogs. I'm actually 28, 18, and 1. But last week I went 7-7, so didn't move the needle at all. This week we had 15 games to go off of. There's only 2 teams on a bye. I'm assuming that the bye schedule's coming to an end. I know a few teams have byes next week. I wonder if that might be the last week for byes. I'm not sure. But so the Rams and the Broncos are on byes this week. So, well, let's go ahead, get started, and so one last thing. As I go through these games and give you my picks, if you hear that means I got it wrong. And then this means I got it right. So let's go ahead and take a look at last Thursday's game, which was the Patriots versus the Falcons. So going to the game, the Patriots were 6-4, Falcons were 4-5. There were 2 teams that were kind of going different ways, because the Patriots are kind of ascending as they on a little bit of a winning streak here. Falcons are kind of stuck in neutral right now, where they haven't completely bottomed out and have fallen to the bottom of the NFC, but they're not one of the good teams in the NFC either. They're kind of lingering around that 7th seed. So it was a pivotal game for both, because Patriots is our first time seeing the rookie Mac Jones having to turn around on a short week and play a Thursday night game to see how he would be able to adjust to that first time in his career. And then for the Falcons, like I said, an opportunity for them to get back to 500 and once again try to hit a little bit of a mid-year reset to see if they could possibly make the playoffs. So What happened in the game was, basically, if you've been watching the Falcons enough this year, you kind of know what they're all about. They are an offensive team that relies on, well, now it's Kyle Pitts mainly, because Ridley, we know, stepped away for mental health reasons. But when Atlanta goes up against teams that can put pressure on quarterbacks, they really struggle because their offensive line isn't good enough, which happened in this game. The Patriots defense completely dominated Atlanta, forcing, 4 interceptions, and just a lot of anemic plays for Atlanta. They weren't able to get a running game going, which has been an issue all year. 16 carries, 40 yards, so New England bottled that up. Passing game, they only gave up 158 yards, so less than 200 yards of offense. Not going to get it done in 2021 NFL football. Then on the other side, the Patriots, Mac Jones was Mac Jones. 22 for 26, 207, touchdown, interception. So he was accurate. He made plays when he had to. But once again, New England's rush offense took a lot of pressure off of Mac Jones and allowed him to just play his game. They got 30 carries, 134 yards on the ground. With, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris kind of splitting the production, which is a good thing for New England as well, because now you've created a two-headed monster in the backfield. And Stevenson also brings the versatility of being able to be a factor in the passing game as well. Once again, through the passing game, everything was kind of spread out. Bourne, 4 catches. Aguilar, 5 catches. Jacoby Myers, 4 catches. Hunter Henry, 2. Bolden, 2. Jonathan Smith, 1. N'Keal Harry, 2 catches. So, production all over the place. And then, like I said, defensively, they were all over Pitts, and none of the other Atlanta wide receivers really scare you that much. Ultimately, it led to a 25-0 blowout for New England. The line on the game going into it was 7. I took New England minus the 7. And yeah, so now the Patriots have improved to 7-4. Falcons fall to 4-6. Kind of a weird stat so far. The Patriots are 5-0 away from home. I mean, that seems kind of odd, at least, especially for a rookie quarterback-led team. But they just find a way to get wins on the road so far, and continue their winning streak and continue to put pressure on Buffalo, who we'll get to a little bit later. See how they did in their game. So right now with this win, and if Buffalo were to lose, New England could end the week in first place in the AFC East. I don't know how many of you had them there at this point, but it's a possibility. So yeah, we'll go on to the next game. So now we're into the Sunday games, and the first game we're looking at from the Sunday slate was the Colts and the Bills. So just talked about Buffalo, got Colts, Bills. Two teams that the Colts have been, playing much better after their slow start, but they've been beating up on pretty bad teams. So this is the Colts' first opportunity to go up against a good team in the AFC to prove that they're able to beat a good AFC team. Well, just a good team in general, because a lot of their wins have come against your Tennessees and Houstons, and I'm not Tennessee, sorry. Your Houstons, your Jets, Dolphins, those type of teams. And Buffalo is kind of, they're looking for a bounce back game because recent weeks their offense has been real shaky. Kind of struggling to put points on the board. And we've kind of wanted to see, going up against a Colts team that has the ability to put points on the board, could this Bills offense figure out their magic formula from last season and be able to stay with a team like Indy. Well, I mean, this game, it was a blowout from the first kickoff. The Bills could not contain Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Colts, which, looking at the season so far, he's got to be probably the front runner for the MVP. I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in this game. Not all on the ground. I believe he had a couple through the passing game as well. And with Jonathan Taylor's production, it has made it so that they don't have to rely on Carson Wentz at all. Because Wentz in this game only threw for 106 yards. Taylor had 185 on the ground with 4 touchdowns rushing. And then he caught Wentz's lone touchdown pass. So this game was all about Taylor for the Colts. And then for the Bills, once again, the offense struggled. Let's see. Yeah, so the Colts, they won the game 41-15. And the Bills coming into this game were the favorite. With the line was 7. I took the Colts plus the 7. So like I said, Colts 41-15. That's correct for me. And I don't know what's going on with the Bills because they have a lot of the same pieces from last year, but for some reason something just isn't working. Now, I do think part of the issue is at some point they've just turned the offense into Josh Allen and shotgun, and then hopefully he makes a play. Because they only had 13 carries. Now, with them being down early, because they were down, 14-0 after the first quarter. They were down 24-7 going into the half. And then they were down, 38-7 through 3. So at that point, you can't really run the ball because you have to put up points quickly. And, I mean, even with that, I would like to see Buffalo try to be a little bit more balanced. I know they have issues in terms of running backs getting production out of them, but for Josh Allen to really, I guess, be the player that he can be, there's going to have to be a better sense of, commitment to at least trying the running game. I know some games you're going to go into and it's just not going to work, but when you go up against good teams, even decent teams that have a average to above average defense, if you're going to go into it being one-dimensional, then you're giving these defensive coordinators a much easier time in trying to come up with a game plan to stop you. So, I mean, I don't know if the Bills can fix that this year because they have some games coming up where it's going to be important because you have the Saints, who I think are one of the top defenses in the league, I want to say. They're at least good against the run, so you figure Bills probably won't get that going there. Then they have a big game against the Patriots, and the Patriots have figured out their run defense, and they're also really good against the pass. Then you get the Bucks, another top defense in the league. You have the Panthers, top defense in the league. Then you got the Patriots again. So that's a 5-game stretch right there, which, I mean, if Buffalo can't come out of that 5-game stretch at least 3-2, I think they might be in serious trouble in terms of a playoff seed. Because, all year they've had kind of the AFC East on lock, with New England struggling early, the Jets are the Jets, and then the Dolphins struggling early. But now after this game, New England has leaped in front of them and are now leading the AFC East by half a game. And if they're not careful, Miami, after all of their issues to start the year, are only like 2.5 behind them. I mean, that's still comfortable cushion at this point, but I'm just saying, if these struggles continue, Miami continues to figure out whatever was holding them back early on, Buffalo could find themselves third in this division. And with all that talent there, that would be a major disappointment. But like I said, the same 5 games, they still have the 2 against New England. So if they were able to win those 2, they could put themselves right back in the front of the AFC East, and all this struggles would be for naught. Well, let's go ahead, take a look at the next game. We've got Ravens and the Bears. So going into this game, the Ravens were a 5-point favorite, even though we learned that Lamar Jackson wasn't going to play because of an illness. And we know the issues that the Bears have with, Coach Nagy being on the hot seat. A lot of talk of he'll be the first Bears coach to get fired mid-season. We have Justin Fields with his up and down production. You have no Khalil Mack for the Bears. He's out for the year. So, didn't really know what to expect from this game. I did go with the Bears +5 because I assumed with no Lamar Jackson and what was it, Tyler Huntley starting the game, that the Ravens were probably going to play a very conservative offensive, game plan. And then the Bears, the Bears have just been struggling, so I figured that it was going to be a close game, maybe like a field goal game. So that's why I went with the Bears +5. So basically, all that happened was a lot of, well, I wouldn't say bad football, because like I said, no Lamar Jackson. Can't really fault Baltimore's offense for not looking like it normally does. And, well, Fields actually got hurt in this game. And we later learned that he has, I guess, some cracked ribs or something like that. And we'll have to see how long he'll be out. I do believe he's going to miss the Thanksgiving game, but I think there's hope that he could be back following week. But I will say for Huntley, for the first time, I think it's the first time I've seen him actually play. He was 26 for 36. Was a little surprised that they gave him 36 pass attempts. But he, threw for 219. He did have an interception, but he was able to use his athleticism on 7 carries for 40 yards. So, good showing by Huntley. Running game altogether, they got 34 carries, 123 yards. So they kept it real balanced, 34 rushing, 36 passing. And like I said, Fields got hurt. Dalton came in relief. He was 11 for 23, not great. He did have 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. So like I said, it was low scoring. And ultimately, the Ravens were able to win 16-13. But like I said, I took the Bears +5. So win there. Ravens improved to 7-3. Bears fall to 3-7. And coming out of the game, I think the questions about Matt Nagy are going to continue to persist because you can see the talent on Chicago. They have Fields at quarterback, who's good. You have Montgomery in the backfield, good. You have Allen Robinson, wide receiver, good. Tight end, you have Cole Kmet. Jimmy Graham, yeah. At least Cole Kmet's young. He was really good at Notre Dame, so I think they're set there. Defensively, you have guys on defense who can make plays. You have Roquan Smith, Ogletree when Mack comes back next year. You have Quinn up front. So I think there's enough talent on this team that they shouldn't be 3-7 at this point. and I think Nagy kind of shot himself in the foot even early on when he decided to go with Dalton over Fields. I think that really put the spotlight on him. And then now that he's gone to Fields and they're still starting to struggle, and, you know, probably not to his detriment, but a lot of coaches with young quarterbacks, you know, keep kind of go with a conservative approach to start with and slowly start opening it up for them. But it seemed like with Fields, they really held him back early on in the season. And ultimately, I think it's going to cost Nagy his job. Question is whether or not he's going to make it through the year. I don't know, because it seems like a lot of the Bears fans and national media are making it seem like Nagy could be gone after the Thanksgiving game, no matter what. Because once they play on Thanksgiving, they'll have 10 days off before they play the following Sunday. So it's enough time to, you know, let Nagy go, get your interim coach there, let the interim coach make whatever changes they want to make, and then try to finish the year before going out to find your permanent coach. We'll have to see what that does to the Bears locker room. And like I said, the Bears do play on Thanksgiving, so at the end of this episode, we'll look at that game. And I'm sure it's going to influence my pick, but I don't want to give it away right now. So we'll move on to the next game here. So we have the Browns-Lions. Now, this game, the line was set at 12.5. My normal thinking is double-digit spreads usually go with the underdog. But, you know, my thinking was the Browns are coming into this. A lot of that outside talk. They're going to, you know, figure it out. They're playing against the Lions. The Lions stink. And we're going to dominate them. Didn't happen that way. This was a game that was really close all the way through. The Browns went into the half 13-0. It was looking like maybe they were going to, you know, hold on to that, you know, add on a couple points, you know, field goals, maybe a touchdown second half. Coast to an easy win. But in Lions fashion this year, the Lions kept fighting, got it down 13-10, and the Browns narrowly held off the Lions to win 13-10. But like I said, I took the Browns minus the 12.5. So first loss of the day. But it was good to see, you know, Nick Chubb come back. He ran for 130 yards, which really helped because without Chubb, they probably would have lost this game. And no Jared Goff for Detroit. They had a guy named Tim Boyle. I couldn't tell you a thing about him who started for them. He went 15 for 23 for 77 yards. I kind of let you know all you need to know about that. Baker Mayfield, 15 for 29, 176, touchdown, 2 interceptions. Baker Mayfield is not right. I mean, we already know about the shoulder injury. I think he's got a knee injury. I think there's an ankle injury somewhere in there. So he's completely beat up. He's finding ways to play in these games. The Browns should probably sit him and give him like a week or two to try to get better. But Baker, I will say one thing about him. He is a competitor. He understands that the team needed this game because if they had lost this, they'd have fallen below 500. And in the AFC North, you know, that's tough. So to try to stick with, you know, Baltimore winning, the Steelers, I gotta say, have surprised me a little bit so far this year. And the Bengals, they got to their hot start, kind of holding on there. They didn't want to fall too far behind. So even as injured as Baker was, he did give them enough to help them win. They get to 6-5. Lions are now 0-9-1. Thanks to the Steelers for that one tie there. But Detroit is another team that plays on Thursday. Have to see if Jared Goff will be available for that, or if we're going to get Tim Boyle again, which once again, that's going to influence the pick. Do the Bears play the Lions? That might be the matchup, which could be interesting because it could have Andy Dalton versus Tim Boyle. But for Cleveland, it wasn't pretty, but they got the win. That's what matters. They're going to have to figure out what to do with Mayfield. Nick Chubb coming back does help because that can take a lot of the pressure off of Mayfield. Keep the passing game simple because you don't want to get him, back there too long, getting hit unnecessarily to further aggravate all these injuries that he's dealing with. So I guess for fantasy owners, if you have Cleveland like wide receivers and tight ends, it might be rough the next few weeks, but I don't know if it's something that he could even get better with during the year. Because I think isn't there a fracture or something in the shoulder? What is his non-throwing shoulder? He has a heel issue. I remember hearing about that, and people were wondering with the heel if he'd be able to, get enough push on his throws to really drive the ball. So that's going to be something to watch. Coming up, they have the Ravens back to back. That is an odd scheduling quirk. I don't think I've ever seen that. So they're going to play the Ravens, Sunday. Then they get their bye week, and then they get the Ravens right after the bye. So that's 2 games right there. Raiders seem to be a sinking ship right now. But then you got the Packers, Steelers, and Bengals. So very tough way to end their schedule with a beat-up Mayfield. But, Nick Chubb is good enough to get them through some of these games. It would have been better if they had Kareem Hunt, but, he's on season-ending IR. So they're going to have to be... they have to implement element of surprise. They did that in this game because they had they put Landry in Wildcat or something, but he decided to run it and he got a 16-yard touchdown run from it. So it's probably going to take a lot of plays like that to get through this final stretch of games. But Cleveland gets a big win to go to 6-5. All right, let's take a look at the next game. Texans and the Titans. Coming into this game, the line was set at 10. I took the Titans minus the 10. And this was an interesting game for sure. It was good to see, Tyrod Taylor. This is his second week back, I believe. He played a little better in this game, still struggled. He was 14 for 24, 107 yards, sorry. Even running the ball, 38 carries, 83 yards. So that's 190 yards of offense. So if I told you the Texans gained 190 yards against the Titans, who top team in the AFC, you're probably thinking it was a blowout. Well, not at all. Somehow the Texans turned that into an upset, mainly because of the defense. Because Tannehill, 35 for 52, 323 yards. He had a touchdown, but 4 interceptions, and those are very big interceptions, of course. Because they were able to give Houston short fields, and Fairburn, their kicker, went 3 for 3 for field goals. So, and it killed a lot of the Tennessee drives, of course. And like I said, the Texans got the upset, 22-13. So I definitely missed the boat on that one. Sometime this week they released Adrian Peterson, which I found that to be an interesting move because they brought him in after the Derrick Henry injury. He was 9 carries, 40 yards in this game, so over 4 yards a carry. Kind of wonder why they went ahead and made the move. I don't know if it's something where, maybe Peterson went to them and was like, not feeling it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Peterson's getting ready to call it a career. I don't know. Or maybe he thinks there's a better opportunity out there. Who knows? We'll have to see if he signs on somewhere else. I kind of doubt it, but so basically Tennessee's running game is going to be turned over to Foreman. I think it's Devonta Foreman. Yeah, I guess he's going to kind of become the lead back. And they still don't have Julio Jones available, which I've talked about in here before. That's kind of the norm for Julio, so he's right on schedule. So the issue here is the passing game basically comes down to A.J. Brown, who's a little bit beat up as well. The run game with no Derrick Henry, you're relying on Foreman and Hilliard back there. So for these next few games, we're going to have to see, can Tannehill carry this offense through some tough games coming up and lead them to good wins? Because they have Patriots this week. Then they have their bye. They got Jacksonville. That's, Jacksonville, whatever. They got the Steelers. The Niners. The Niners are getting healthy. And that's going to be real dangerous for a lot of teams because 49ers have a lot of talent. Then you have the Dolphins and Texans. So, luckily, Tennessee's schedule isn't too bad. But you're looking at the Patriots, Steelers, Niners games that they're going to have to try to get through with Tannehill being the focal point of the offense. And whether or not he can carry them through those 3 games will decide a lot whether, one, they could even win the AFC South because Indy is now 2 games behind them. They're right there. If they can keep their spot atop the AFC in general, a lot's going to be decided in the next 5 weeks. For the Texans, their season's already written in stone. It's more of whether or not they're going to have the number 1 pick or not. With Tyrod Taylor, though, he does give them a, steady presence at the quarterback position, which they haven't had since he's been out, of course. And yeah, so we'll just see if Tennessee can turn it around with a big game against New England coming up. And for the Texans, if Tyrod Taylor, I don't know, if he wins enough, do they lose out on a top pick, and will that actually count as a loss for the year? So we'll have to see what those 2 teams what happens there. Moving on to the next game, we got Green Bay, Minnesota. The line was 1. I took the Packers -1. And I will have to say, I think for me, as a mental note, I need to stop kind of doubting Minnesota. Because I think I kind of, counted them out early on in the year. But as long as the game isn't primetime, Minnesota plays really well. Which, once again, I've said, kind of an odd thing. And it's an odd thing with Kirk Cousins, why that is. Somebody's going to have to figure that out one day. But coming into this game, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, both had great games. Rodgers was 23 for 33, 385, 4 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins, 24 of 35, 341, 3 touchdowns. I will say, I think Kirk Cousins is one of those quarterbacks where you either like him or you don't. There's no middle ground. Because yes, he's infuriating when he struggles so much with primetime games that he looks like he shouldn't even be in the league. But then he'll have these games against teams like Green Bay where he looks like a top tier type quarterback. I think his overall record is literally at 500. So that kind of lets you know he's, I guess, basically an average quarterback. But I think with a lot of these years, so much of, his team's failures get put on him that a lot of people think he's a bottom 5 starting quarterback or something, which he isn't. He's actually, like I said, closer to he's definitely closer to like a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's not top 10. He's like right outside of it, but he's much closer to that than bottom 5. And I think that's kind of the frustrating thing for Vikings fans. Because you get this Kirk Cousins on a regular basis, Minnesota would be a scary team come playoff time. Problem is, he'll have a game like this, and then the following game he'll throw 2 interceptions and the team will lose. So if they can somehow bring more of this Kirk Cousins out on a regular basis, Minnesota will be a good team. Because the running game, they have Dalvin Cook still. Dalvin Cook is a top tier young running back in the league. So they have the formula to be a really good team. It's just inconsistency has always been their biggest flaw. Let's see. For Green Bay, it's kind of status quo for them. Only thing is that Green Bay's defense clearly let them down in this one. And it did come down to a field goal. And for the first time in a while, Minnesota is actually on the good side of that, where they got the game-winning field goal. So Vikings won at 34-31. So got that one wrong. And Green Bay falls to 8-3. Minnesota's now 5-5, and they're right in the mix of the NFC playoffs. Because I've said before, NFC very top heavy, like ridiculously top heavy. Because their wild card spots will probably go to a team that's hovering right around 500. And then looking at the NFC on the whole, I think there's only like eight, maybe 9 teams that are 500 or better. I think it's actually 8 teams. Whereas the AFC, you have like 12 teams that are 500 or better. So the AFC is more congested. And then the NFC, there's like a clear divide between the top like 4 or 5 teams and everybody else. So the Vikings are right there in the mix. They're probably the best 5-5 team of the group. So I fully expect Minnesota to close out their year and be a playoff team. And like I said, they would be dangerous for some of these teams like a Green Bay or like a Rams, Arizona, some of those teams. Once again, that's if they keep this up. A lot of those teams will not want to face this Minnesota team come the playoffs. Green Bay, we learned that Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a toe injury. And then I read somewhere that somehow it was rumored as COVID toe. Gotta tell you, first time I've ever heard of that. And then it was like the other day we found out it's not COVID toe. It's just a broken, like a fractured toe. So, I don't know. There always seems to be some type of drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers. But I did actually look up COVID toe because it is actually a real thing. So basically, it's, people who have had COVID got over it. Some people have like issues with standing, balance, and it causes them to have issues with sleeping or something like that. So I guess if Aaron Rodgers was dealing with that, probably would have been a little bit more serious than I kind of thought. Because like I said, never heard of it until this story with Aaron Rodgers. But even dealing with a fractured toe, that's going to be something to watch. We'll have to see if he takes a hit. Is he wincing? Is he going to be able to keep his balance on his throws? Will we start seeing some inaccuracy? And the Packers, we know, are trying to fight for that top seed in the NFC because, Rodgers and LaFleur and those guys would rather have an NFC title game in Lambeau Field than to go to Tampa or SoFi in LA or out to Phoenix in the desert. So, like I said, Vikings are now 5-5. Packers are 8-3. And let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Next game is Dolphins-Jets. So, coming into this one, the line was set at 3.5. I went with the Dolphins minus 3.5 because it's the Jets. I basically pick against the Jets most weeks. So far, it's worked out well. But the Dolphins aren't exactly playing well either. And especially with Tua struggles and Brissett as a backup, he struggled as well. But I figured that they would have enough to beat a Jets team that's really floundering right now. They had to sign Joe Flacco, all 38 years of, I think he's 38, to come in and be the starter for this game. And Flacco, I will say, he was 24 for 39, 24 of 39, 291, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He played well. Fortunately, the Jets don't have enough talent everywhere else to, carry a performance like that into a win. So they ended up losing this game to the Dolphins, 24-17. And like I said, I took the Dolphins minus the 3.5. So I was right there. Dolphins improved to 4-7. Jets are now 2-8. For the Jets, another lost season. Only thing will be, can they get Zach Wilson back to at least give him some more experience for the rest of this year? Hopefully it works out where he could be better next year, and they could be more competitive within the division. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done with this Jets roster, but right now it's just to be looking for small improvements to try to get to maybe 2-3 years down the line to a situation where you're vying for a playoff spot, and hopefully behind Zach Wilson. The Dolphins, Tua was good. I still have questions on whether or not Tua is going to be the starting quarterback of the Dolphins next year. Now, of course, if he goes on a crazy run to end this year and the Dolphins finish, 9-8 or something, 8-9, then maybe you give him next year to see if maybe they can keep him healthy and get him through a full season to really fully evaluate him. But if the season goes anyway like it's been going and they finish, like 6-11 or maybe even like a 7-10, I would not be surprised to see, in the offseason, the Dolphins either go through free agency to get a quarterback, or depending on where their draft pick is, maybe draft a guy and then get like a veteran free agent. Well, they had Jacoby Brissett, but go with that and kind of restart the clock at the quarterback position. I mean, I would like to see Tua work somewhere, but I think a lot of the questions that people had for him coming into the league, we're starting to see, because a lot of people, saw that he's a small quarterback, doesn't have the biggest arm, and even though he scrambled a lot in college, he's not the fastest guy. So I think with that, you're seeing a lot of the struggles here. Now they can beat teams like the Jets, of course, because around Tua, they have more talent. But looking at the Dolphins' schedule coming up, Panthers, okay, then they have the Giants, Jets. They might be able to get a couple of wins there. But Saints, Titans, Patriots are the 3 games to finish the season off, and they could easily lose all 3 of those. So it looks like below 500. I mean, they're destined for that. But you never know. If there's one thing that this NFL season has taught us, is that there's going to be a lot of unpredictability. And, some games that the Dolphins will go into and look like clear underdogs, they may be able to, cobble together an upset or two. So I'm not going to completely count them out yet, but clearly their season is on life support. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next matchup. We have the Saints and the Eagles. I went with the line was set at 2.5. I took the Saints plus 2.5 in this one. And so let's see what happened here. Jalen Hurts was the story of this game, where passing, he was 13 for 24, 147. Nothing really alarming. Well, nothing really there to celebrate. But he was 18 carries, 69 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. And he was a part of the rushing attack where they had 50 carries, 242 yards. So the Saints weren't able to stop the run at all in this game. Hurts made the plays he had to help the Eagles win. Eagles won this game 40-29 to improve to 5-6. Saints are now 5-5. Like I said, I took the Saints plus 2.5. So it's a loss. And for the most part, this game wasn't even that close. It took New Orleans scoring 22 points in the fourth to make it 40-29. So take away that fourth quarter when clearly the Eagles, took their foot off the gas because they had the game well in hand. It was a blowout. I would like to see Jalen Hurts make more plays in the passing game, because I've said this with Lamar Jackson before. Yeah, it's good you can run the ball and make plays with your feet, but you don't want to rely on that to be productive. Because think of it, if Hurts was more of a threat in the passing game, it'll just open up more opportunities in the running game for him. And right now, I think teams are playing Hurts to run more and dare him to beat them through the passing game. And, it might win you a few games a year, but if the Eagles want to get back to a position where they are, constantly, threatening the Cowboys in the NFC East, I think Hurts has to develop a little bit in the passing game. For the Saints, Simeon, 22 of 40, 214, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, I got to give him credit. He's probably playing a little bit better than I thought he was going to, because my last thoughts of Simeon were back when he was at Denver, and I mean, it looked like he wasn't going to last at all in this league. I will say, for relief of Jameis Winston, Simeon has done well for himself. Let's see. Run game, Ingram, 16 carries, 88 yards. That's fine. I mean, for the Saints, clearly their formula for winning with Simeon, they can't get behind too much because the offense with Simeon isn't built to come back from deficits. They need to get out early against teams. That way they can rely on ball control, short passing game. Mark Ingram on the ground and win that way. That's the only way they're really going to win games right now. At least with Winston has a better arm and is a better passer than Simeon, so you can make more plays in the passing game, more big plays. Right now, they can't do that. So we'll have to see. The Saints started off well. They've come back to earth, certainly these past few weeks. Find themselves in that mix of 5-5 teams. And now the Eagles, 5-6, they're right there. Just a half game behind that 5-5 group. And at least with the Eagles, actually, let me see their schedule to finish. Yeah, they have Giants, Jets. Like I said, in their final 6 games, they have Giants twice, Washington twice, the Jets, and then the Cowboys to end the year. I mean, just looking at that, it's starting to seem like the Eagles might become a wild card team. And I mean, once I run through these games, we'll take a look at the standings real quick. But I'm starting to think Eagles, Vikings might become wild card teams. And at the start of the year, I probably would have laughed if anybody had said that. But yeah, because the Eagles should be favored over the Giants in both games. I could say they might split with Washington. They should beat the Jets. So that's 4 wins right there. That gets them over 500. That gets you a playoff spot in the NFC easily this year. Might have to write that down. That's my bold prediction. The Eagles will claim a wild card spot. I'm writing that down right now. So at the end of the year, I will revisit that to see if I was right or not. And I also said Vikings will be a wild card team. Like I said, we'll look at the standings at the end, and I might pick my wild card teams. I'm feeling the urge to do that. But let's go ahead, take a look at the next game here. What is it? Panthers. Okay, Panthers and the football team. Still weird to say Washington football teams. They need to figure that out soon. But let's see. Try to get through these last few matchups here pretty quickly for you guys. But Washington, Carolina. The line on this game was 3.5. I went with Carolina minus the 3.5. I was not that I fell into the hype with Cam Newton last week when he had the 2 touchdowns off of 8 yards passing and 14 yards rushing. Not at all. One thing we know about Cam Newton is he's a showman. And I felt like what bigger stage than against your former coach in Ron Rivera, who's coaching Washington now. As your first game, truly back as a starting quarterback to just ball out. Well, Newton went 21 for 27, 189, 2 touchdowns. And then he ran the ball 10 carries, 46 yards. Pretty Newton-esque for where he is in his career at this point. But it wasn't enough on this day against Washington, as Washington got the win 27-21. And like I said, I took Carolina. So Carolina falls to 5-6. Once again, they're in that mix of 5-win teams in the NFC. Washington is now 4-6, so they're right there just below those teams. Antonio Gibson was the key for Washington. He got them 95 yards on the ground. And McLaurin in the passing game, Carolina couldn't really stop him. 5 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. And Heineke, he was good. 16, 22, 206, 3 touchdowns. And Heineke was showing some real emotion and fire. You know, he'd make plays, screaming towards the sideline. I think Cam brought that out of him, because we all know Cam Newton makes a play, he lets you know about it. So it kind of raised Heineke's game in that respect. And plus, I think Washington wanted to do it for Ron Rivera against, you know, his old team of Carolina. McCaffrey, 10 carries, 59 yards. I think for Carolina to be successful, they're going to need more from him. I mean, he did have 7 catches, 60 yards, so about, what was that, 119 yards, all-purpose yards. That's good, but I think McCaffrey needs to be more of a factor in the running game for this Carolina team to, you know, earn a playoff spot. So like I said, once again, end of the episode, we'll look at the standings, see where these two teams are. But like I said, Carolina's in that 5-win mix. Washington's right there with 4 and 6. Go ahead, look at the next game. 49ers and the Jaguars. So I took the 49ers minus 6.5 in this one. And like I said this earlier in the episode, the 49ers are getting healthy, which I think is a dangerous thing for a lot of these NFC teams, because of the teams sitting there at the bottom of the playoffs right now. I could easily say the 49ers are the most talented. So this matchup, they beat the Jaguars 30-10. Like I said, I took them 6.5. So right. 49ers improved to 5-5. Jaguars fall to 2-8. Garoppolo, 16 of 22, 176, 2 touchdowns. With the talent on this team, they just need Garoppolo not to turn the ball over, and they'll be in a lot of these games. Now, once again, they played Jacksonville. Jacksonville is not good this year. Well, they're not good in general. But you got Deebo Samuel, 8 carries, 79 yards. Yeah, you got Brandon Ayuk in the receiving game, 7 catches, 85 yards. They got George Kittle back, 4 catches, 34 yards. Both those guys had touchdowns. You have Deebo Samuel, 1 catch, 15 yards, so he factors in both. Defensively, they held Trevor Lawrence, 16-25, 158. 16 carries for Jacksonville, 54 yards. Jerome Robinson, who's their lead running back, especially with Etienne out for the year, 12 carries, 29 yards. So they stifled the run game. I mean, Lawrence has kind of struggled a little bit this year throwing the ball, but, this formula here for the 49ers, 162, no interception. 176 for Garoppolo, no turnovers to go along with 171 yards on the ground. They will beat a lot of teams that way. So once again, we have to put the 49ers down as a team to watch at the end of the season here. So they're 5-5, and then you have today the Vikings coming up. That's going to be an interesting game between those two teams. Might turn into an eliminator game. Not sure, but they have Vikings. They have the Seahawks, who are struggling. But then they have the Bengals. Bengals are fighting for an AFC spot themselves. Falcons, we'll have to see. Falcons could be sitting there, trying to get a 7 seed maybe. Titans, tough. And then Texans, game they should win, and finish with the Rams. So Not overly tough, final stretch, but it's not easy as well. I'm now looking at it again. It is pretty daunting. Because like I said, the Vikings, Bengals, Titans, Rams games are going to be tough. Falcons, you never know. Yeah. So between the Viking, Bengal, Titans, Rams games, they're probably going to have to split those somehow. And their best bets would be the Vikings and the Bengals. Well, depending on where the Titans are at that point, the Titans game could be winnable. So and then they'd probably have to sweep the Seahawks, Falcons, Texans. 49ers could come out of this 10 wins. Once again, we'll have to see. They can stay healthy. That's not out of the reach. If they go 10-7, they'll definitely have a playoff spot. All right. Let's go ahead and look at the next game, which is Bengals and the Raiders. I guess I'll quickly have to say, I think so far having a pretty good week in terms of the picks so far. So let's see if we can finish it up on a good note. So Bengals Raiders, the line on this game was 1. I went with the Bengals -1. The Raiders, they've been dealing with a lot of off-field stuff as well as on the field. A lot of issues recently. And they've completely squandered their early hot start and are now one of those teams that's hovering around 500. And the Bengals had their hot start, fell back a little bit, seemed to be getting back to where they were a little bit. But Bengals took this game 32-13. So like I said, I took the Bengals -1. I got that one right. Burrow 20 for 29, 148, 1 touchdown. Not overly explosive numbers. But they did get 159 on the ground, and more importantly, they got 123 from Joe Mixon with 2 touchdowns on 30 carries, so he was over 4 yards a carry. And as I've said before, Cincinnati is an entertaining team to watch because you have Burrow, you have Mixon, and then in the passing game, you have Boyd, Chase, who had another touchdown in this game. You have Higgins. So offensively, a lot of ways they can put points on the board. The key is always going to be keeping Joe Burrow upright. And if they do that, they'll be able to win some games. For the Raiders, Carr, 19 for 27, 215, touchdown interception. I don't know what's going on with Jacobs, but he was 9 carries, 37 yards. He's really had a down year after looking so promising last year. I kind of think it's a product of I think the Raiders put so much emphasis on the passing game because they have guys like Waller and Renfro. They did have Ruggs, but we all know what happened there. Waller, 7 catches, 116 yards. Waller is a great talent, but I think Vegas kind of falls into the trap of the Falcons, where the Falcons constantly try to get the ball to Pitts. For the Raiders, it's basically Waller or nothing. And I would like to see them get back to being a little bit more diversified in their offense, of using Jacobs and even Drake more in the running game to try to open up the passing game a little bit more. Because, I talked about the whole Steve Young thing earlier in the year where he was talking about the Raiders need to pay Carr. These past few games, as I said before, you're seeing the reason why the Raiders aren't really jumping at the fact of giving Carr a big contract. Because this is a game that you could say they probably had a chance to win, but they were thoroughly outplayed. I mean, the defense allowed the Bengals to get 19 points in the fourth quarter, which ultimately led to the difference in the game. But even before that, they only had 6 points going into the third. So I'm going into the fourth quarter. So the Raiders' offense isn't clicking right now, and I think they're going to start. I think they're going to start sinking even more, and the season's going to be a real disappointment. Now, they will go into next year with a new coach because Gruden. We all know what happened there. So maybe you just put this as a lost season because of everything that happened off the field around this team. And clearly this team just wasn't able to navigate through all of that to continue to play well. But for Cincinnati, good win. They get to 6-4. And they're right there in the thick of the playoff race as well as the division. The division is not completely out of the way yet. And count me as a guy who's actually rooting for Cincinnati to make the playoffs. I don't know what it is. I like watching at least the offense and the potential of the offense. Because Mixon's a good running back. Chase, after all of his issues in the preseason with drops and stuff, has been phenomenal. Higgins, Boyd, great complementary wide receivers. So if they ever got it all together and the offensive line blocks for Joe Burrow, could be a dangerous team. Probably not this year, but for years to come. But even right now, they're only a game back behind Baltimore in the division. They do have a tough finish to their season because they have Steelers. Then they're the Chargers. Chargers are kind of wavering right now. Niners, as I said, Niners are going to be dangerous this last stretch of the year for a lot of teams as they continue to get healthy. You have the Broncos, who are very talented, could be right there fighting for a playoff spot. Ravens, Chiefs, Browns. So tough to navigate there. I think of the AFC, to be a playoff team, you might need 10 wins. So can they get 4 more wins out of that 7-game stretch? It's going to be tough. The 4 games you probably have to look at are, Chargers, Broncos, they'll probably have to win those. Niners game's going to be tough. I think the Steelers game this week is a game that they definitely need. And then with the last 2, Chiefs, Browns, they're going to have to take one of those, probably the Browns game. Because I think the Chiefs are starting to figure it out offensively. It might be too much right now for Cincinnati. But, yeah, so Bengals fans, don't lose hope on the playoffs just yet, even though a few weeks ago you were top in the AFC, falling back. But I think the opportunity is still there for them to take it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next game. Got Cowboys and the Chiefs. The line was 2.5. I took the Cowboys plus 2.5. Kind of an ugly game, to be honest with you. The Chiefs won at 19-9, so I did get that one wrong. But, Cowboys lost CeeDee Lamb in this game with a concussion. I think he's trending towards being available for Thanksgiving Day. Elliott couldn't run the ball, and supposedly he's pretty banged up right now. Prescott was under duress behind the offensive line. Amari Cooper, was he out for this one? Yeah, because I think he was out with the whole COVID thing. So, yeah, was not a good day for the Cowboys. Like I said, 19-9. Did I play? Yeah, but the Chiefs, on the other hand, for all this talk about the Chiefs being back, they still looked like the same team here. They only put up 19 points. It was just that the Cowboys were just worse than they were on this day. It's still an important win, of course, for the Chiefs as they go to 7-4. Cowboys fall to 7-3. But Mahomes, 23, 37, 260, no touchdowns, 1 interception. We were seeing this earlier on in the season. So the struggles are still there against quality teams. Like I said, luckily, Dallas couldn't do anything offensively to take advantage of the fact that Kansas City struggled in this game. So I'm not completely going to write off, earlier this year where the Chiefs struggled, because I still see the struggles there now. And as I said before, I wasn't completely on Dallas as this, Super Bowl contender, based on them being 7-2 earlier. Well, 7-2 coming into this game. So 7-3 for the Cowboys, 7-4 for the Chiefs. Cowboys have, their annual Thanksgiving game. Who do they? Let me see. Do the Cowboys play the Bears? No, the Cowboys play the Raiders. Okay. Yes, Cowboys play the Raiders. Bears play Detroit, Buffalo, New Orleans. Okay. But so they're playing a Raiders team that they should beat, so they'll get to 8-3. But and then you'll start hearing the conversation about them being a Super Bowl contender after that, because that's how it works with the Cowboys. Chiefs, I still need to see more from Mahomes, and you have Mahomes, you have Kelsey, you have Hill, Edwards-Helaire, a lot of talent there, but for some reason the offense still struggles. So they need to figure that out before I completely get on board with them being a Super Bowl contender. Because looking at it right now, I still think some of these tougher teams in the AFC will give them problems in the playoffs. And I'm looking at, Tennessee, because outside shot Derrick Henry could be back for the playoffs. Well, at least at some point in the playoffs. So Tennessee plays tough. Baltimore plays a tough physical game. New England plays a tough physical game. I mean, that's 3 right there that I could see giving them issues. The Steelers play a tough brand of football. Buffalo, well, not really Buffalo. Well, Buffalo defensively plays physical, so that could be an issue. So, yeah, I still think the Chiefs have issues in front of them, but there's still some time in the regular season for them to prove to me that they've kind of got it figured out. So let's go ahead, take a look at the next game. It was Seahawks-Cardinals. I took the Seahawks -2. Especially once we learned that Kyler Murray was going to be out again, so we're going to get Colt McCoy for another week. And once again, I got to say, Colt McCoy has surprised me. He was 35 for 44, 328, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he thoroughly exceeded my expectations. They got 95 yards on the ground between Connor. McCoy scrambled a little bit. The Ertz signing for Arizona has paid dividends as well. They're getting production from A.J. Green, which I like to see because he had a lot of injury-prone years at the end with Cincinnati. Arizona is still a dangerous team. Now, I wouldn't, say that if McCoy is going to be the quarterback here on out. We know Murray's coming back, but this Cardinals team is going to be very, very dangerous. And the Cardinals are another one of those teams that they're 6-0 away from home. But they're a good team, so that makes sense. But being undefeated away from home, that's something that can come into play in the playoffs as well. But Russell Wilson, 14 for 26, 207, no touchdowns, no receptions. I mean, I know he's still coming back from the finger injury, but the Seahawks are really running out of time here to try to get back into the playoff picture. Starting to hear some talk about Pete Carroll. And this is something that we know with Pete Carroll. Now, he's lasted in Seattle probably longer than most people thought, maybe. But it's kind of reminded me, because we know Pete Carroll used to coach New England way back in the day. And when, he first got there, the energy and all that was real infectious. But as the years went on, you start to see the decline, and then he's ultimately let go for Belichick. It only lasted like 4 years there or something, but I think we're starting to see the decline really with Seattle. Now, what probably buys him another year or so is because Wilson was hurt. But we heard in the offseason that Russell Wilson's starting to get frustrated. So I don't know how that's going to play going into next year. Does Wilson want to stay there? Does it become something where it's either Wilson or Pete Carroll and the owner has to make a decision? Which if it does come down to that, clearly Russell Wilson's going to win out over Pete Carroll. But I don't know. I'm starting to see some disturbing issues with this Seattle group that I think is going to derail this season. I mean, 3-7. You're looking at they'd have to run off basically 7 straight to get to 10-7 and probably a playoff spot. And they have, I mean, all things considered, if they were hitting on all cylinders, they have a schedule to do it. But Washington, Niners, Texans, Rams, Bears, Lions, and then Cardinals. I mean, the way the team is right now, I see a lost Cardinals, lost Rams. I see the Niners being able to beat them. So that's 3 losses right there. I know early in the season I said, I very rarely go against, Russell Wilson when I make picks and all that. And I picked them in this game only because Kyler Murray was out. But now I'm starting to really wonder, with all this like locker room talk getting out there, if something isn't really brewing deep down within this team, and it might start to get ugly these last few weeks. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, we're down to the final 2 games. So go ahead and get through these. We got Steelers, Chargers. I took the Steelers plus 5.5. The Chargers did get the win, 41-37, but the Steelers were able to cover. This was a wild game to watch, especially the fourth quarter. Maybe the most entertaining fourth quarter of the year. I don't know, but it was a quarter where we saw Pittsburgh outscore the Chargers 27-14. So the Steelers completed their comeback after they were down 27-10. They complete the comeback, get the lead late, only, to snatch all the momentum, only to turn around, give up a big passing play to Mike Williams for the go-ahead score for the Chargers, and then the Steelers were never able to, get back on the board to get back ahead in the game. And the Chargers held on to get a big win for them because they're now 6-4. The Steelers fall to 5-4-1, 41-37. We did get good Justin Herbert in this game. 30 of 41, 382, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he was great. Big Ben, 28 of 44, 273, 3 touchdowns. He had a good game. Like I said, entertaining to watch. It was just that the Chargers had the ball late in the game, made a play that they needed, and got the win. Chargers still have issues. I mean, coming into this one, we all know that the Chargers' run defense isn't that good. For some reason, Pittsburgh only ran the ball 18 times, 55 yards. So I think for Pittsburgh, if they really look back at this game, it's probably a game that they probably wish they stuck with the run game more. And if they had done that, they probably win this game. But when I have seen Pittsburgh games, it always seems like there's like a point in the game where they just turn it all over to Ben. Like they're trying to recapture, the magic he had earlier in his career. Don't know why they do that. A lot of times it leads to losses for them, but it's something like they insist on doing every once in a while they do it, and I don't get it, but they almost pulled it off in this game, so I can't be too mad at it. But I still think in order for Pittsburgh to win consistently, they're going to have to rely on the run game because, yeah, Ben's playing better than I kind of thought he was going to, but he's still just not that guy he once was. So establishing the run will make it easier on him, and I think that's the best way for Pittsburgh to play right now. And then for the Chargers, they're going to need Herbert to continue to play this way for them to win. Because 6-4, they're right there. They have all the opportunities in front of them to get themselves a playoff spot. And I'm a big fan of Herbert, so it was good to see him play well after having a couple of games where he struggled. All right, take a look at this last game before we look at the 3 games from Thursday real quick and the standings. So we have the Bucks Giants. Line on this game was 11. I took the Bucks minus 11. The Buccaneers won it 30-10. And the Bucks are now 7-3. Giants are 3-7. Brady 30 for 46, 307, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. They had 94 yards on 27 carries on the ground. Daniel Jones 23 for 38, 167, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So my main thing with this one is the Daniel Jones experience. So for you Giants fans, you have to let me know what you think of Daniel Jones. To me, I think he's a guy who has some talent, but I just think the experiment with the Giants needs to end after this year. I don't think he's the right guy for this team. Because like I said, he has talent because we've seen it. But it's just not... It just doesn't look good. This was a game where the Bucks weren't exactly hitting on all cylinders. It was a game that, if Daniel Jones could have made more plays in the passing game, they could have kept this close and maybe gotten an upset. But it just seems like he misses throws that he shouldn't, makes poor decisions when he shouldn't, and it just puts so much pressure on the defense. And the defense isn't, like top 5 or anything. So it's like putting unnecessary pressure on them to have to perform better than they can in order for the Giants to stay in these type of games. Like I said, I don't want to completely give up on Daniel Jones. I do think they were dumb to draft him when they did. But once they ultimately made that decision, it is what it is at this point. But he clearly looks like a guy who, like if he was drafted in like the 3rd round, I don't think people would be reacting this way to him. But the fact that he was like a top 10 pick, yeah, this just isn't going to do. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to him, leaving the Giants. He'll probably end up as a backup somewhere who hopes for, the starting quarterback to get hurt for him to get an opportunity. And then at that point, he's going to have to take advantage of that opportunity to really get back as a starting quarterback. But I think we're starting to see, like I said, the end of him being a starter in this league. That could be, you could look at several reasons why. You could look at it as maybe coaching, talent around him. But I don't know. It just does not look good watching the Giants play. So with that is week 11. So let's go ahead and look at the standings real quick. Like I said, I know this episode's getting a little bit long, but bear with me for a little bit more. So standings wise, real quick, let's look at the NFC first. So we have the Cardinals, number 1, 9-2. Green Bay, number 2, 8-3. The Bucks, 7-3. Cowboys, 7-3. So those are your division leaders right now. We have for wild card, we have the Rams 7-3, Vikings 5-5, Saints 5-5, Niners 5-5, and Eagles, Panthers 5-6. I guess that's kind of your playoff possible teams. So looking at it, I already said Eagles and the Vikings will get a playoff spot, so that leaves one wild card spot open. Oh yeah, that's obviously going to go to, I guess, the Rams. So yeah. That's my bold prediction for the NFC. Eagles, Vikings, and the Rams. Rams is not that bold, but Eagles and Vikings, I consider that to be pretty bold. Oh wait, no. I forgot about the 49ers already. Oh, that makes it actually tougher. So between the Eagles and Vikings. Alright, so bold predictions, 49ers, Vikings, Rams. With the Eagles just missing out. Okay, that's the 3 wildcard teams I see. Alright, AFC real quick. We have Titans number 1, 8-3. Ravens 2, 7-3. New England 7-4. Chiefs 7-4. Those are your division leaders right now. And we have Patriots, Titans coming up this week. So big game right there. Then wildcard teams, we got Bengals 6-4, Chargers 6-4, Bills 6-4, with Steelers 5-4-1, Colts and Browns at 6-5, Raiders, Broncos 5-5. Wildcard teams I'm looking at, ultimately I don't think they change much. I think the Bengals are the weakest wildcard team right now, with the Bills being right there as well. Chargers, all 3 of them could change, but the only one really outside those 3 that I could see making the move might be the Colts. I think the Browns are too beat up, especially with Mayfield. I think the Raiders are going to keep falling, and I think the Broncos have too many teams to leap over to get there. And I think the Steelers. So if the Colts get in, who do they get in over? Which means out of the Bengals, Chargers, and the Bills, who do I trust the least to hold on? So I think the Bills get in. I think it'd be ridiculous if they didn't make it with all that talent. What gives me a reason to pause with the Bengals is I think they're just young right now. Whereas the Bengals might be tougher next year. The Chargers are pretty young too. But I trust the Chargers. Chargers run defense stinks though. Alright, I'm going to go Bills, Chargers, Colts. I really want the Bengals to make it though. But yeah, I'm gonna go Bills, Chargers, Colts. I wrote those down, so we'll come back to them at the end of the year, see if I was right. But yeah, that's your playoff outlook right now. As I said, each week after I do the games and all that, we will go back and look at those. So now, quickly, let's look at the 3 games for Thursday. These will be the first picks for week 12. And then we'll end this episode. Now, for those of you who are new, I normally don't go this long with episodes, but yeah, there was a lot to talk about in this one, so I know it's a little long, but like I said, it isn't normally this long. So the matchups on Thanksgiving, you got Chicago at Detroit, Vegas at Dallas, and then Buffalo at New Orleans. So the first game of the day is Bears-Lions. Bears come into this one at 3-7. Lions 0-9-1. 0-9-1. Whatever. Bears, we know Justin Fields isn't going to play, so we're getting Andy Dalton. Lions, I don't know if Goff is playing. I don't know. Is he? Let's see. Yes, looks like Goff is back for this game. So, it's Goff versus Andy Dalton. But then the Bears have all this talk with Nagy possibly getting fired. So is this the opportunity for the Lions to get their first win of the year? I'm going to say no. I'm going to go with the Bears. I think Andy Dalton plays well enough for the Bears to win this one. I think it's going to be close, though. So Chicago being a favorite -3 is interesting. Because I will say the Lions will keep this game close. If the Lions can have the lead at halftime, I think they'll win this game. Because like I said, I think then all that outside noise of the Bears will start really getting louder. But the Bears can take control early. I think they'll be fine. But I'll go with the Bears -3. Yeah, we'll do that. Bears -3. And yeah. Now, like I said, I trust Andy Dalton more than Jared Goff. And I like the Bears defense more than the Lions. And then with Goff really struggling and Goff playing a lot of, short passing game and all that kind of stuff, I think the Bears will be able to get a turnover or two, make it easier for Dalton. So give me the Bears -3 in this matchup. Next game, 4:30 game, we have Raiders-Cowboys. Which probably before the season, this one might have looked like the best matchup for the day. But it might still actually be. But looking at it, we have the line set at 7.5. Cowboys coming to this one at 7-3. Raiders are 5-5. The 7.5 makes it interesting. Because I can see the Cowboys winning by a touchdown here. But the half now puts into play. Do you go with the Raiders? Thinking the Cowboys win by a touchdown. Because there's no Amari Cooper. I think CeeDee Lamb is cleared to play, so it looks like he'll play. For the Raiders, Carr's struggling. The game is in Dallas, and Prescott plays really well at home. Cowboys are 4-1 at home. Raiders, like the Bears, have outside issues to deal with. Well, I'm going to go with the Cowboys -7.5. I think this is a game that Cowboys should be able to win comfortably. If they don't, might raise some questions about the Cowboys if they're starting to get a little tight late in the year. But I fully expect them at home to do well. We'll have to see if Elliott can have a good game, because it's been a few weeks since Ezekiel Elliott's really had a good running game. I think this will be an opportunity for him too, as well as Pollard. Pollard is a good change of pace back for Zeke. We'll have to see what the passing game looks like without Amari Cooper, but the Cowboys are the more talented team. Raiders seem to be free falling here, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys minus the 7.5. All right, final game. We have Bills Saints. Bills coming to this one at 6-4. Saints 5-5. Bills need to win this one, probably at this point, to stick with New England after New England just passed them for the division lead. The last thing they would want to do is lose this one, have New England get like a big game, a big win against Tennessee. Then it may cause Buffalo season to head south. Saints coming to this one really struggling. Simeon plays within himself, but he's not the type of quarterback to really put up big numbers. I think, is Kamara playing or is he out? Let's see real quick. Yeah, Kamara's out, so that's definitely a hit. Ingram's questionable. Yeah. Just from those two injuries there, because in order for New Orleans to win, they'd have to try to establish a run game, even though Buffalo's tough defensively. Saints' best bet is for Buffalo to continue to struggle offensively, and then Saints try to take advantage, maybe a turnover here or there, keep it real close. But yeah, I'm not liking the fact that Ingram's questionable, Kamara's out. So I'm going to go Bills minus the 6.5. So I'm taking all favorites in the Thanksgiving games. Yeah. So once again, Bears minus 3, Cowboys minus 7.5, Bills minus 6.5. And if you follow me on Twitter at Chompin' Podcast, I will tweet out my picks as well, so you can, have a record of it for yourself. But yeah. So like I said, I know that was a lot. The episode was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I think we got a lot of good information out there. So hopefully you learn something about these matchups. And yeah, hopefully you liked it. If you did, subscribe to the show wherever you are listening to the podcast. Like it, leave a comment, whatever. Anything's available to you, go ahead and do that, because it definitely helps me out. And if you do leave a comment and there's something you didn't like about the show, you can definitely leave it there as well. I'm fully open to whatever criticism you do have. If you did like it, tell somebody else about it. Get them in on it so we can continue to grow the community here. And yes, like I said, podcast is available everywhere. Follow me on Twitter at Chompin' Podcast. I do tweet a lot, especially a lot more often now than I did before. We could have a lot of sports talk there as well. You can like the Facebook page, Chompin' at the Bit. Get episodes there as well. So whatever whatever social media site you like, on there as well. I am on Instagram at Kyle Edwards. I put episodes there as well. So wherever you need to try to reach me, hit me up on any of those platforms. But like I said, hope you have a great holiday. Hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hope you like this episode. Enjoy the 3 games as well. And then going for the rest of the week, we're going to talk college football. We'll talk of course, NFL again to look at the rest of the Week 12 schedule. I think we'll have some more NBA talk. So plenty of stuff coming for the rest of this weekend going on. So thanks again. Be safe. Enjoy your family and loved ones. God bless, and I'll catch you next episode. All right, I'm out.